Nå, der troede jeg nok lige, at I skulle slippe for instruktørens traditionelle dumsmarte bemærkninger. Jeg har ganske trukket mig fysisk en smule tilbage, og således ikke er rigtig med i billedet. Og hvorfor måtte man spørge? Man må være ærlig og sige, af forfængelighed. De 25 år siden optagelserne af de gamle episoder sætter sine spor. I øvrigt kan jeg ikke leve op til den ulidelige kækhed, som den yngre Lars von Trier benyttede sig af. Og dog er netop forfængelighed den virkelige dræber.
All right, everybody, now it's time to talk about The Kingdom, Season 3, Exodus, by our old friend Lars von Trier from Denmark, Dansk. And just finished watching it. Going to give you my thoughts on it. Just wanted to say that I started going through and taking notes. And I got to episode 3, and I realized I had, these are double-sided, I have 14 pages of notes. So we're going to put those away, and we're just going to talk a little bit about Season 3 of The Kingdom, Exodus. But before we do that, I just want to talk a little bit about Lars von Trier. Since finishing this, this show has been shown at various film festivals. I think Venice and Toronto Film Festival. Good reviews. And it's just come out on Mubi. That's where I watched it. I got my 30-day trial and just finished it up. And Lars has come out and said that he's got Parkinson's disease. And I think it's fairly advanced or something. He says he's got a lot of trouble making stuff, so this could possibly be the last thing we see from Lars von Trier. Like I've said before, I don't know what kind of a Lars von Trier fan I am. I appreciate what he's doing, and I appreciate what he's going for, and I appreciate him as an artist. And but I don't love all this stuff. After this, I'm going to watch Breaking the Waves. I hadn't seen that. Like I said before, I like Dance in the Dark and Dogville, and I like Melancholia. It was pretty good. But I love The Kingdom, the original Kingdom. And I never even heard about it, which is kind of strange, right? Never really heard about it. But then I got some DVDs and watched it, and I thought it was just the most amazing thing I've ever seen, right? It's definitely my favorite Lars von Trier thing. I said it in the last video, talking about The Kingdom, that I think he should have just been a comedy writer. He's got such a weird, dry sense of humor, and it oddly translates into me a Canadian, right? Because a lot of the sort of the inside joke is all about sort of, opinions of Scandinavians towards each other in the world, and you'd think that, well, that's whatever, but I get it, and I think anyone would get it. So I'm just going to start out and say I like The Kingdom Exodus, right? I kind of like everything I review for the most part, but for this one, I'm not even going to say spoiler alert, because I think I don't even need a spoiler alert, because I think if you watch my review of Exodus, you're not going to get what this show is about, right? You have to watch. This show is made for people who have seen the original 2 series, right, from the 90s, right? You have to watch those first. So what I'm going to say is, go ahead, stop, whatever, just keep watching. But at some point in your day, go and watch the original season 1 and 2 of The Kingdom. And then go watch my review of season 1 and 2 of The Kingdom. And then watch season 3, Exodus, on Mubi, or I think it might be on Amazon or whatever. If you're in Denmark, you've probably already watched it. And then come back and watch this. Or what I suspect most people do, just like watching a video game playthrough, just watch this video, right? For the hell of it. And see if it makes any sense, because the series on a whole, I've watched it a few times and I'm kind of like going, geez, I'm not really sure what the hell's going on here, right? But if you jump in at season 3, you won't know what's going on. it'll just seem like madness, right? I think even someone commented when they said they went and watched The Kingdom season 1 and 2, and they said they felt like they were going insane while they were watching it. So that's kind of what you're getting into. This is not a standalone thing. You have to have watched the original. I don't think that you can watch The Kingdom Exodus without knowing what came before it. So, but if you don't care and you're going to do it, just remember that this is a comedy, right? It's a parody and it's a comedy, right? So it's kind of a parody of the whole series. The whole concept as a whole is a parody of procedural dramas, like medical procedural dramas. Dun, 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 dun. The doctors are doing their, it's like Marcus Welby or Quincy or whatever, right? Or ER is basically, I think, what it was originally based off. And it kind of makes fun of that whole thing about, doctors and hospitals and drama and stuff like that. And it invokes some supernatural things that are just bizarre, right? But it's really about a few characters and how funny they are. So anyways, there you go. There's the warning. I don't know what kind of a warning it is. It's a spoiler warning to say, if you really want to get into the Kingdom, go watch the original ones, maybe my review, and then watch this one. But whatever, let's just talk about it. So, like I said, I wrote 14 pages of notes. I'm not going to, there's too much weird stuff to get into. And I think I'll just kind of tell you what I liked it. I liked it with, there's a little bit of an asterisk, right? I did really like it, but it really wasn't anything too different from the original 2 series, really. It wasn't anything too different. Even Lars von Trier said that the reason he even did this in the first place is because David Lynch did the Twin Peaks: The Return, right? 25 years later. And since The Kingdom, right, was originally kind of his take on Twin Peaks back in the 90s, that it only made sense that 25 years later he, did a third season, right? It all kind of lines up. And he's a big fan of David Lynch, and good for him, right? He just came right out and said it, right? I think any other sort of director would be like, oh, no, yeah, perhaps it was inspired. He's like, nah, I'm just kind of copying David Lynch, right? And it is kind of Lynchian in a way, but it's different, right? So this one is just, it's still comedy, right? It's that weird Scandinavian comedy. Can't exactly say what makes Scandinavians so funny to me, but I think it's their sort of uptightness and just sort of they don't take things very seriously or whatever, and we'll just sort of get into it. So what's Series 3, the Kingdom Exodus, all about? And a big part of, before I begin, a big part of what I'm trying to do with this video is start a conversation, right? Because I realized that the people who watched my review of The Kingdom before this summer are totally into it, right? You're either totally into this series or you haven't heard of it, is basically how I put it, right? Or you don't like reading subtitles or something, right? But so I'm not really even going to try to explain too much what's going on in The Kingdom Exodus. I'm assuming you've already saw it because you're a fan. And I'd like to get your feedback because I'm not 100% sure on really what's going on there. So it'd be interesting to find out what your thoughts on what's going on in The Kingdom Season 3. So for everyone else, I'm trying to keep this short, quick backstory on what The Kingdom's all about. There's a hospital. It's in Denmark. It's called The Kingdom, right? It's built on something called the ancient bleaching ponds from the 1800s. No one knows what that even means. And there's ghosts. There's ghosts, and everyone's insane. Everyone who works in this hospital is insane. Now, in Season 3, it's basically a retelling of Season 1 and 2 with the most sort of convoluted meta storytelling that could possibly be done with a show. So, of course, if you've seen this, you already know. But the movie, the series opens with an old lady watching the ending of the original second series of The Kingdom with Lars von Trier talking and stuff like that, right?
Kommet bort. Åregård, derude mor. Vi låser vores dør. Det blæser på min pude mor. Mon riget bliver som før.
So already you're going like, okay, that's kind of weird way to start, right? To have who's going to be the main character, right? This old lady watching The Kingdom, right? And then making notes about things, right? And her name's Karen or Corinne, right? And she's basically just the new Miss Druce. And she's a somnambulist. She's a sleepwalker. Okay, and she wears a little sash or a kind of a bag with, and her name Karen is written on it, and she wears a little bell. And I guess this is because of the sleepwalking, so people can hear her coming, and then they know her name's Karen. I mean, she should have just had she could have had sleepwalker tattooed on her forehead, but she had it written on her door for, in red paint. It said sleepwalker, right? Just to sort of let people know, like, hey, this lady's a sleepwalker. She may or may not be awake when you interact with her. Ooh, I'm trying not to recap the whole thing because I can't. Anywho, it's what I'm talking about with the meta narrative. So she's just watched the original Kingdom, and then she has she goes, I guess she's asleep, and she sleepwalks, and a mysterious Uber cab or something picks her up and takes her to the Kingdom, right? Now, this is all in HD, good color grading and all this. It's kind of blue. And she gets to the hospital, and she can't get through the door. The sensor for the door doesn't recognize her, right? So it's almost like she's a ghost. Or maybe she's in a dream or something, right? And a bird flies by and sets off the sensor, and she walks in. And immediately when she walks in, it's the sepia iodine tone or color grading of the original thing, right? And it's Kingdom. And we're back there. We're back there again. So everything's back to where it was. And she talks to the front desk security guard and asks about, I think she asks about Mrs. Druce or little brother or something like that. And he goes, oh God, like, you people, you come in here every, whatever, you people keep coming in here and asking about these people who were in a show, right? Like, that wasn't real. That wasn't real. That was just a TV show from the 90s, and you people keep coming in here and asking about these characters, right?
Længe siden vi har fået en forespørgsel på Fordruse. Så fat det dog. Fordruse eksisterer ikke. Den skide tv-serie har gjort ubodelig skade på rigets omdømme. Alt sammen noget idioten Trier har fumlet sig frem til. Fordruse er fiktion.
And sets her off, and she just wanders into a library, right? So that's sort of the first level. And but it gets a little weirder when later on she meets an orderly who's named Buldar, right? And he says, but everyone calls me Balder, right? Because that was the name of a character in this TV show, and I guess he looked like me, so everyone calls me that, right? And you're kind of going, okay, so, all right, so it's all kind of fake. But then above Karen, who's passing out again, he says there's a memorial to him, and there's a thing, like a plaque, commemorating the original Balder or Baldar from the original series, like he was actually real. So at that point, you're kind of going, okay, I don't know I'm starting to really wonder what's real here. Is this a dream? Was the original show did it actually happen? Did it not happen? Is it happening now? Is this a continuation of the original story? Or is this a new story? And what happened before was just like Lars von Trier. That's very strange. And I probably don't make any sense when I'm explaining this, right? And I hope I don't make any sense because it's very hard to kind of follow. Especially because later on, there's a scene with a nurse who is in the original series, and she says to Karen, she says, you know, oh, that stupid show from the 90s, right? Can you believe that, you know, that hack fraud, you know, Lars von Trier made me say all these stupid lines? And so she actually admits that she was an actress in the original series, and Lars von Trier had told her to say these stupid, ridiculous things. But she says, he made me say Grand Duke. Can you believe that? And everything. And I look back and I'm thinking, I don't think she said Grand Duke, right?
Forbeholdende mening, så synes jeg, den serie var noget værre lort. Instruktøren, der tvang os til at sige alle hans åndssvage replikker. Kan du for eksempel høre mig sige Grand Duke?
But later on we find out that Grand Duke is a character in this series. Right? Does that make any sense? It shouldn't, right? Because it's very meta, right? So it's a lot like the original first two series, right? We got some old lady, she's in the hospital and going to the neurosurgery ward for something she shouldn't be going to the neurosurgery ward for, right? She's a sleepwalker, and she's afraid of the dark. She's a sleepwalker. She has somnambulism, and she's afraid of the dark, right? And through a series of events, her and Balder convinced the IT person to fake an identity for her so she could get admitted for brain surgery. Okay, stop there, right? Seems weird, right? So she's going in for brain surgery for sleepwalking, and the doctor actually reads her chart. They fake her name and call her Mrs. Santa Claus or something. Oh no, the admitting doctor is Santa Claus or something weird like that. And he goes, well, okay, I've never heard of anybody coming in for, you know, brain surgery for sleepwalking. But he's like, yeah, you know, a little nip off the frontal lobe, and that should probably take care of it. I think, you know, and that's the best I can explain that part, right? Now, at the same time, a helicopter lands at the Riget, which I know I'm pronouncing incorrectly. I know it's pronounced differently in Danish. And who gets out but Dr. Helmer, right? Not Dr. Helmer from the original one, but his son, Dr. Helmer, Sweden's greatest neurosurgeon, right? So he's arrived now. And just like in the original one, right? He goes to the meeting in the same room, right? And it's the exact same setup. There's him and the manager of neurosurgery, who this time instead of Mosgard is Dr. Potopian. Dr. Potopian. Dr. Potopidan, right? And Dr. Potopidan is an insane person and makes everyone sing a song for Helmer, and then calls him Helmer, which apparently means half whatever. That's even, you got to watch it. It sort of makes sense. I don't understand Danish. But the new Dr. Helmer, who's actually, I mean, again, the actor who plays him is this guy, and I apologize, is Mikhail Persbrandt. Mikhail Persbrandt is Helmer Jr. and he does an awesome job. Helmer is just an awesome character, right? And what happens to Helmer is he says, I've come to this land to find out how the Danish people drove my father insane.
Tvungen att komma till landet som gjorde min far sinnessjuk. För att förstå och om möjligt fortsätta hans arbete. Att fullända pappas mission om att höja den danska standarden. Om än inte till svensk nivå. Så långt sträcker sig ingen vit mans krafter.
Anyways, all the doctors sort of conspire to get the new doctor, the Swedish doctor Helmer, drunk and abandon him on the roof of the hospital. They take the door off the meeting room and put him on it. He's pissed, and they bring him up to the roof and leave him with a little Swedish flag, and wrote his location on his stomach. And then we get, he wakes up eventually and does the, you know, Danish scum thing.
Högheten svensk bär på, den kan inte ta. Danskjävlar.
So we get that. So it's, what I can say is that it's a copy of the original, but it's kind of like a simulacrum because it's kind of different people, but some of the people are the same. But it's the same, but not, right? It's like a weird photocopy of the original. Anyways, Dr. Helmer wants to find out what drove his father insane, and but he's settling in at the hospital, and he has a bunch of furniture delivered to him from IKEA. Oh, by the way, I gotta say, Dr. Pontoppidan, I can't say it, who's basically Mosgard, right, from the original, has a policy. He has this, just like Mosgard had the policy of like clean air, right? You know, transparency. He has this open door policy. So he has all the locks taken off everyone's door, so no one can lock their door. Except for him, he's got 10 locks on his door. Of course, right? It's the Danish way or something. Helmer's trying to figure out what drove his dad crazy, and he's trying to help everyone out, and runs into this this other doctor, Anna, who's making advances towards him. Now, here's where Lars von Trier kind of gets into some territory, right? So, you know, she's kind of flirting. She's following him around, for one thing, right? She's always following him around and kind of like gazing at him and stuff like that. And then actually follows him into, like, and then takes him, well, follows him into his office and is strongly flirting with him. And Helmer thinks, well, okay, this woman's flirting with me. And I think this is Lars von Trier's commentary on either Sweden or the way the world is right now. Helmer drafts up a consent letter, like a consent thing, and emails it to her, and she reads it on her phone. And it's this thing like, oh, can I slap your bum and this and that, and you know, he's like asking permission to do all this stuff. And I don't even know if she can, but she kind of like, you know, displays it to him, and he does it. Boom! He immediately gets a sexual harassment charge, right? And now they got to go. Now he's got to go see the Swedish lawyer, who's played by Alexander Skarsgård. And I'm gonna put up a picture. This is right around when the Norsemen. I mean, it must be the same time. So you'll see. I'm going to show the Norseman and Alexander Skarsgård in this, and then you kind of go, wow, cinema magic, right? So he goes and sees the Swedish lawyer, and he's explaining the situation that, hey, man, you know, she was coming on to me and this and that, and I did the proper Swedish thing by, you know, drafting a consent form and sending it to her before I even did anything and whatever else and got consent, right? And he says, no, just the best thing for you to do is just pay her. Just pay her out, pay whatever she asked for, and just be done with this. And he's like, well, why are you telling me that? And then eventually he finds out, well, because she's also my client, right? And he's like, well, what? How can you represent me and her? at the same time. And he just says, well, there's only so many Swedish lawyers in Denmark. It's a weird joke, but it's funny when you kind of see it. So that whole storyline with Helmer and Anna, she does it another time. She wears some fake nipples. She has these weird fake erect nipples that she wears under her shirt. And Helmer's going to, we'll get to this, but Helmer's being dragged away to be pilloried. They have a pillory in the Freemason Lodge in the basement of the hospital. If you've never seen this show, you're probably thinking this sounds insane. But there's a Freemason Lodge in the basement of the hospital, and he's going to be pilloried because they had a trial. They had a Danish trial, an internal investigation, and found him guilty of whatever, and now he's got to be pilloried. And actually, I think it's because he punched out Dr. Naver. Anyways, Anna's wearing these big nipples, and he becomes enthralled by it, and this and that, and actually touches them, and she reveals the nipples are fake the whole time, and boom, back to the Swedish lawyer, where he gets nailed with another sexual assault charge, sexual harassment charge, and has to pay her, right? So that's what's going on with Helmer. But also on, just saying the things that really stuck out to me. On Helmer's first day, and this again, Lars von Trier might be saying something here. He says, in Sweden, we don't believe in it's something about pronouns, but we don't want to assume people's genders and whatnot. So from now on, we're not going to use anybody's first name, because that would reveal their gender to us, and that would be, disrespectful towards them. And also, we're going to, on their files, we're going to take off the gender. So, that's not available to us, and we're going to only we're not going to say him or her, we're just going to say they. Well, obviously, in a neurosurgery situation, that's going to cause some confusion. And Karen there, who's getting her unnecessary brain surgery, even to begin with, goes into surgery. She has a similar name, so she's K whatever, to someone else who's having a brain hemisphere separation thing for epilepsy, so they do that operation on her, right? They do the wrong operation on her because they don't know who she is. She just has a similar last name to someone else who's scheduled. Anywho, Dr. Naver, who's the rogue doctor, gets upset and beats the shit out of Helmer, right, while he's assembling his IKEA furniture in his office. And it gets recorded. But because of that, that's what the internal trial starts. I feel like I'm going insane trying to explain this. That's why the internal trial starts in the hospital. It actually makes sense if you watch it. The internal trial starts, they say, the police do show up, right? And the police go after Helmer and say he's been parking illegally, right? He's been parking in the ambulance spot just like his dad did in the original, right? And removing his hubcaps from the degenerate Danish youth so they don't steal them, right? So the cop doesn't care about the assault. He says, "Oh, you guys just handle this internally." They have this internal investigation with the emeritus of the hospital, the retired doctors, who are kept in an opium den, also in the basement. That's sort of the retirement present. So they drag them up and they say, "Look, they do this." The old guy says this thing like, "Well, there's an old Danish folklore saying that a blacksmith was found guilty of murder. The baker accused this blacksmith of murder, but the community only had one blacksmith and they had 3 bakers, so they decided the best thing to do was to just kill the baker, right? Someone got killed, someone got punished, and they didn't lose a blacksmith because they didn't have a replacement." So when they're having the internal investigation, because Naver had access to the he knew how to run a cyclotron. They said it will just punish Helmer by sending him to the Freemason Lodge in the basement to be put in a pillory, which was made by IKEA, and we'll walk around and kick him in the ass for an hour. The words come out of my mouth, and even now I'm going, and that's not even we're not even into the weird stuff yet. I don't even know. At some point, I just got to cut this off and let you guys experience this. I think now, again, I feel like I'm going insane trying to figure this out. Willem Dafoe is in this movie. Willem Dafoe is in this movie, and he's the Grand Duke. Now, remember that woman before who said she was an actress in the original Kingdom thing, right? Who said Grand Duke. Now she has to say Grand Duke, and when she says Grand Duke, Willem Dafoe appears, right? And there's every time he's on screen, there's this bzzz, there's this like flies buzzing noise, right? So he's evil, right? And the nurse who says she was in the original thing as an actress turns into a rat, runs down a corner. Willem Dafoe turns into an owl, kills the rat. This is important somehow because there's also a pain conference going on. There's a big conference going on at the Kingdom, and it's called Pain is Your Friend, right? And it's hosted by Pontoppidan. And it's pretty obvious. He gets up and says, well, you know, it's important when you come to these conferences that you never take anything as a gift, not even a pen. Meanwhile, I mean, I'll put it up. While he's saying all this stuff, there's just boxes and boxes of stuff labeled free shit for everybody, right? And then I wrote it down here, but that's basically it. He does this little thing, and then he says, thanks to so-and-so medical, and that's it for day one of the conference, and there's free drinks in the lobby, and they all come running out. So that's Lars taking a shot at the medical establishment and really what they're up to. Having these fake conferences just for free shit and booze, right? I think that's what he's saying. What other stuff? What other stuff do I even bring up? Remember in the first one, Mosgard, right? The fucking Operation, Clear Morning Air, right? That guy, he had a son, right? Who was always talking about the Mosgard men, right? But he's like a dork, and, all the women, like, whatever, ridiculed him. Well, he's back in this series, right? 25 years later, except now he's a grown man who's riding a scooter and wears a propeller beanie on his head, right? So there's that. He's back. Rigmor is back. Rigmor was the original Dr. Helmer's girlfriend, and now she's kind of just called the elevator elf because every time that Pontoppidan shows up at the hospital, he has to go in the elevator to get to his office or get to the neurosurgery ward. He's always looking in the elevator, right, to make sure something. And he goes in, and then there she is. She's like, you, and like wants to tell him about her interesting surgeries, which basically involves amputations, right? Various amputations. And so the whole show, he's just trying to like get into an elevator and not run into her, right? To the point where he just brings some rappelling gear, drops it out of his window, and he just climbs up a rope to work, right? Just to avoid this woman with her little yoo-hoo and stories about, I know you, and I want to tell you about my interesting surgeries, right? Which again, I kind of had a feeling for, because it's sort of like, I don't know, you just run into these people in life, right? You just keep running into them, and they want to tell you about stuff, and you're not interested, and you're not really sure who they are, but they're really interested in you. to tell you about their interesting amputations and whatnot. And you just kind of, you know, you don't have time for that in your day. Poor Puntovian. Oof. Now where are we at? I guess the last thing, there's a lot of other stuff, but there's one other very interesting thing. So it turns out there's a second secret society in the kingdom, in the Riget. And it's called Swedish Anonymous. It's for Swedish workers of the hospital, right? Who basically want to complain about being trapped in Denmark. And but they go by the SA. They're the SA, right? So the SA is Swedish Anonymous, and Helmer joins it. Anna introduces them. They do a little thing where they like tickle each other's wrists with a handshake, and it's weird. And he goes in. Let's talk about this. He goes into the SA meeting with his hubcaps from his Volvo, right? So the kids don't steal them. And later on, he finds his dad's hubcaps and brings them. And when he's in the SA meeting, there's like a whole rack where people put their hubcaps. So it's a joke. If you've never seen the first series, you'd be wondering what the hell is going on with the hubcaps. Who cares, right? You know, it's a callback joke. And after several SA meetings, Helmer gets up and says, and then now's the time to act, right? Now's the time for Operation Barbarossa. Operation Barbarossa. So the SA in the hospital are going to now conduct Operation Barbarossa, right? Barbarossa. With all everything that sort of, you know, contains, right? So that's another big laugh. That's another big laugh from me.
Den vackraste flaggan i världen.
Karen goes into the like conveyor belt or dumbwaiter or whatever transport system in the hospital where the original girl, I want to say Mary, was put into and then disappeared in the first two series. She just went in this thing and disappeared. There's a lot of left unexplained. She goes in there and then she finds Udo Kier, the little boar. Except now he's not little brother anymore, he's big brother. So instead of being this weird giant with the long arms and legs, he's a gigantic head. Right, he's a gigantic head. He's like the size of a building, right? And he's drowning in his tears in the bleaching pools, and I mean, it's all kind of done sort of seriously and sincerely. And there's this music and stuff, and he's crying and he's drowning in his tears, like he's up to here, and all of him, his parts are all throughout the kingdom and whatever. And he's got a frog key earring that will open the gate. And, you know, but it's so ridiculous, right? It's so ridiculous, right? But they got the serious music. And you're kind of going, oh, this is what this is about somehow, right? And it kind of is, I guess, at the end. I'm going to leave out the ending. The ending's just weird. Except for one other thing, one other character. I'm just going to stick to the characters. Bob, the hospital administrator, right? Who's a great character. So when Helmer meets Bob, the hospital administrator, who I'm not sure if he was in the original, but only because he didn't seem to really age. He kind of seemed to be the same age in the original, if it was him. But anyways, he's the hospital administrator. He hates this hospital called Skype, who's got a cyclotron. And he's always threatening to like investigate what's going on in the IT department. So the IT department, who are like a bunch of hackers, right? They devise this plan to like fuck with his solitary game on his computer and increase the hardness or whatever. So he's always just focused on it. So this Bob, the hospital administrator, is always calling the IT department, complaining about the settings of his solitary game. And then they're just trying to like keep him busy and distracted, and it's apparently working on this guy. And then they give him a puzzle, right? They up the ante, and they just send him a puzzle. And apparently it's a blank puzzle, but he comes. This I don't really even understand, but he comes into his office one day, and the puzzle is kind of like half done, right? He's like, oh, that's weird. Who's been working on my puzzle, right? But then when you look at the puzzle, it's actually, the puzzle is a photo of his actual office. Like from the camera angle that you're looking at it, the exact camera angle that you're looking at, except this piece in the middle is missing, right? So again, it's this weird simulacrum thing. And then when, so I guess a ghost did it. We'll just say a ghost or a demon did it. And then when the puzzle is shown complete, it's in the middle of the puzzle, right, is a picture of Lars von Trier, kind of dressed like a pimp, kind of like dressed as a cartoon pimp. And it turns out that Lars von Trier, it's not Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is the Grand Duke. You think he's the devil, but he's not, because an helicopter lands at the end, and Lars von Trier makes Willem Dafoe kiss his ring. So Lars von Trier is the devil the whole time. Absolutely just ridiculous. Ridiculous shit, right? So I think I'm just going to leave it at that. Isn't that strange enough? Isn't that strange? I don't even know. There's a million other things to pull out. I think I've done enough. I think I've done enough damage to this. But what can I say? I loved it, right? I loved it. And if this is his last thing, he's leaving on a high note. And if you haven't seen The Kingdom before, it's not going to make any sense. So find a way to watch the original too. Like I said, watch my review, watch the new ones, and then because it's the end of the video, stop the video now, and then watch my review of Exodus, right? It's all meta, right? Leave it at that. Thanks for watching, everybody, and good Yule, and we'll see you on the next one.
Og manden sagde til kællingen, der er hul på mine sokker, og konen svarede ham igen, så stop dem selv for pokker. Målak, målak, mak, mak, mak. Målak, målak, mak, mak, mak. Målak, målak, mak, mak, mak. Så stop dem selv for pokker.